Hi, I'm Amelia from Montana. I was named after the first woman to cross the Atlantic Ocean in an aircraft. As a child, I used to read stories about her bravery all the time. However, I would like to dedicate this private diary story to another brave woman, my grandmother, Diana. She might not be famous enough to be in history textbooks, but she was my personal hero and always inspired me. I barely remembered my parents because they died when I was still a toddler. I was raised by my grandmother. She told me that my parents had been brave travelers that went missing in a jungle. That was all I knew about them. I had always been different from the other kids because I was fearless. Why was everyone afraid of clowns and the dark? The other girls screamed when they saw spiders, but I thought they were cute. I wasn't afraid to pet them or put them on my head. Amelia, you're nuts! One day, our class was brought to a pediatric dentist for an examination. While everyone else in the hallway was shaking with fear, I was just yawning, bored. That's right, I wasn't even afraid of dentists. Long story short, everyone thought I was weird and no one wanted to be friends with me because of that. That's why my grandmother had always been my best friend. We lived in a small town near a ski resort. We were often short on money, and Grandma had to work hard to provide for us both. Sometimes, we even had to rent our house to tourists and move to the garage. I could see that Grandma was having a hard time, so I tried to help her as much as I could. For example, one day, I climbed on top of a high bookshelf to wipe the dust off of it. When Grandma saw me, she clutched her heart and told me to get down. I didn't understand why she was so upset. I wasn't afraid of heights at all. Amelia, why would you do something so risky? I just wanted to help. Studying is your only responsibility. Promise me you'll listen to me and be careful. I swear on the cherry gum. The years went by and I turned 17. I really wanted to do extreme sports. However, I kept my promise and never even tried snowboarding, even though we lived right next to a ski slope. One day, Grandma saw me watching the skiers with envy. I know what you're thinking, Amelia, but skiing is very dangerous. Besides, skiing equipment is very expensive. You should focus on your studies and prepare for the college exams instead. I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, to be honest. So choosing a college wasn't easy. But one day, everything changed. Granny had some health problems because of her age. She no longer had the energy she used to and soon had to retire. Still, she stayed optimistic, and I tried to cheer her up as well. You're strong like the Terminator. I'm sure you'll get better soon. Oh, baby. My disease is called old age. There's nothing we can do about it. Grandma didn't want me to work, but her medications were expensive. So I didn't listen to her, and I found a part-time job collecting garbage on the ski slopes on the weekend after school. One day, I saw a guy eat a chocolate bar and throw the wrapper right on the ground. Ugh, had no one taught him littering was bad manners? Hey, is throwing garbage in the trash too hard for you? You'd be out of a job if I did that. I was in a terrible mood that day, and I wanted to pounce on that handsome bastard. However, he suddenly grinned slyly. Let's make a bet. If you break my downhill record, I'll give you my snowboard. But if you lose, you become my personal cleaner for the week. Say goodbye to your board. I immediately got on his snowboard and rode down the slope with the speed of a rocket. I don't know what I was thinking. After all, I'd never done it before. But I loved it. The wind hit my face, and I felt free as a bird. Whee! I hadn't yet counted to 10 when I reached the bottom of the slope. My legs were shaking. It was awesome. A few minutes later, the owner of the snowboard ran up to me. Or rather, its former owner. He said that I had definitely broken his record. By the way, the guy's name turned out to be Richie. We got to talking, and I told him that I had never snowboarded before. He looked even more impressed when he heard that. Seriously? Wow, you're a daredevil. To be honest, I had never felt scared. I can't even imagine what it's like. Richie was intrigued by my words. He said that he filmed extreme stunts for his YouTube channel and suggested I join him. I've never met a girl as brave as you. Wow, that was the first time I wasn't called weird because of that. I liked hanging out with Richie. We did snowboard tricks and rope jumping. That's also an extreme sport, a bit like bungee jumping. Sometimes we also pranked each other. For example, one day, Richie put Mentos in my Coke. The sticky fountain drenched me. And of course, my friend filmed everything on his phone and posted a video on his channel. We were having fun, getting new subscribers, and even earning some money. It wasn't much, but it was enough to pay for my grandmother's drugs. Of course, I told her that I was still working as a cleaner so she wouldn't be upset. But of course, she eventually found out the truth. That day, Grandma was cleaning the garage and found my snowboard. Oops, I told you not to do extreme sports. Grandma burst into tears. I tried to calm her down and showed her the videos we'd been filming. It's not that scary, see? My fearlessness finally came in handy. Besides, I always get lucky. I've done a ton of tricks and I've never gotten a single bruise. You are all I have. I couldn't bear it if something happened to you. Please, come to your senses. I promised her I'd think about it, but of course, I had no intention of stopping. After all, I loved snowboarding more and more by the day. And then a guy called Roger texted me. He said he had seen the videos of me and was very impressed.
Amelia, I've never seen anyone as fearless as you. I could help you make a fortune. Are you interested?
He told me he was the organizer of a knockout competition called Brave Hearts, in which participants did all sorts of risky tricks. That extreme show was broadcast on Roger's channel. The winner got a huge cash prize. It sounded tempting, but very suspicious. So I said I had to think about it.
We need people like you. Join us anytime.
I decided to talk to Richie first. We were editing our next video when I told him about Roger's offer.
Brave Hearts?
I've heard about it. You should tell them no, Amelia. Those guys are nuts. Richie tried to convince me that the competition was too dangerous, but that just made me more interested. I'll take my chances. The winner is gonna get a ton of money. Besides, I want to know what fearing something's like. At that moment, my grandmother burst into my room and started to scold me and sob at the same time. Amelia, you can't. It's too dangerous. Can't you just tell them no? For me? Were you eavesdropping on us? Oh, that pissed me off. I told her that I was already an adult and I could decide what to do for myself. With those words, I stormed out of the room. Just as I was about to text Roger, I heard Richie gasp. Amelia, your grandmother collapsed. Oh no. I immediately called an ambulance and Grandma was taken to the hospital. While she was being examined, Richie and I waited by her ward. Finally, a nurse came out and said my grandmother had been so stressed she'd had a stroke. She needs rest. At that moment, I felt scared for the first time in my life. Not for myself, but for the person that I loved most in the world. I ran up to my grandmother in tears and swore I would quit extreme sports and I would even stop snowboarding. Do you promise me? I swear on the cherry gum. Just get better, please. From that day on, I led a quiet life. I visited my grandmother in the hospital and tried to choose a college I would like to get into. Richie was always there for me. But then, one day, our last class was canceled, so I came to the hospital earlier than planned. When I came up to Grandma's ward, I accidentally overheard her talking with a nurse. Thank you for helping me convince Amelia I had a stroke. You're a good friend. I didn't know what else to do. After what happened to her parents, I couldn't watch it happen again. I kept listening and found out what really happened to my mom and dad. It turned out they had loved extreme sports. And one day, an avalanche came down when they were skiing on a very dangerous slope. Can you believe it? I burst into the ward and I went ballistic. How could you lie to me? Sweetie, I was just worried about you. She hadn't just hidden the truth about my parents from me, but also faked a stroke. I was furious. We fought, and I immediately called Roger and said I would take part in his competition. Each day, I had to complete a new task. Ride through a burning hoop on a motorcycle, swim in a pool full of dangerous fish, or even jump into a tub filled with cockroaches. It was all broadcast on the show's YouTube channel. There were fewer and fewer participants left after every round. Some of them failed their tasks, and some just didn't have the guts to go through with it. Meanwhile, I didn't really feel anything. I was as brave as a lion. Richie and Grandma kept trying to convince me to leave the show, but I didn't listen to them. After all, luck was on my side. I had to pass one final test, and the prize would be mine. I couldn't believe my ears when I found out what it was. I had to snowboard down the slope where my parents had died. Perhaps I should have refused to do it. However, it felt like it was my duty to conquer that slope. I was already standing at the starting line when Richie called me. Amelia, you've got to come now. Your grandma was taken to the hospital again. I'm not falling for this again. Why are you lying to me? I thought you were my friend. I hung up and I got on the snowboard. The cameraman got ready to film my triumph. I started riding down the slope. I don't know why, but at that moment, luck turned its back on me for the first time in my life. My legs gave way, I lost control, and fell off the track. Everything after that was kind of a blur. I came to in a hospital. My head was buzzing, everything hurt, and it was hard for me to move. Then, a nurse walked into the ward and said that I was incredibly lucky to have survived a fall like that. And then, she told me something that made my blood run cold. You were unconscious for almost a week. We examined you and found out you have a very rare genetic disorder, the Urbach-Wheathy disease. People like you can't feel fear. Unfortunately, there is no cure for this. You can still lead a normal life, but you should be more careful. Can you imagine? So that's why I had always been so fearless. Everything made sense now, but the news still shocked me. After the nurse left, I called my grandmother. I really wanted to talk to her and apologize, but for some reason, she didn't pick up the phone. That was weird. A few hours later, Richie stopped by the hospital. He tried to cheer me up.
Hospital pajamas really suit you.
Oh, come on. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said all of that.
At least now we know why you're so reckless. You should stop taking so many risks.
Richie told me that Roger and the other organizers of the show had been arrested for neglecting the safety of their participants. It turned out most of the things they did were illegal. And then he frowned and handed me a note.
Your grandmother asked me to give you this if anything happened to her.
My heart sank. I could tell by Richie's face that something terrible had happened. It turned out that my grandma's second stroke was real. She was gone now. Sobbing, I opened her last letter to me with trembling hands. Dear Amelia, you've always been a ray of sunshine for me. Please don't blame yourself for anything. Stay brave and strong. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about your parents. I just wanted to keep you safe. You should know that their lives were insured. The bank's got the money now, and you'll get it as soon as you come of age. Be happy. With love, Grandma. The letter got wet from my tears. I hugged it to my chest and continued to cry. Richie hugged me tight.
I'm here. Everything will be all right.
A week later, I was discharged from the hospital, and the first thing I did was go to the cemetery. Hi, Grandma. You've always been my friend and a role model to me. I'm sorry that I worried you so much. I'm not gonna take any more unnecessary risks, and I'll figure out what I want to do with my life. I swear on the cherry gum. Soon, I turned 18, and the bank transferred a large sum to my account. Richie got into college, and we stopped filming dangerous stunts. We were still best friends, though. I was still grieving for my grandmother and trying to find my vocation. One day, as I was walking around the city, I saw something scary. A woman got distracted by a phone call and let go of the stroller. Oh no, the stroller rolled down the road, picking up speed by the second. No, my baby, help! Without hesitating for even a second, I ran after the stroller. I was fearless and had done a lot of risky things because of my rare disease, but that was the first time I was doing something brave to help someone. I managed to catch the stroller right before it reached the road. I handed the baby to its sobbing mother. At that moment, I realized I wanted to save people. That was the vocation I had spent so much time searching for. Oh, how can I thank you? Just be more careful, ma'am. Soon, I started training to be a rescuer and learning how to help those in trouble. However, to save someone else, you need to be safe yourself. So these days, I'm much more careful. This story is special to me because it changed my life. Please press like and tell us in the comments down below about the people who inspire you.